Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, hot off a terrible week, wherein her security people roughed up and illegally arrested David Menzies for the crime of journalism on a street. She, as you know, was on the board of trustees of the World Economic Forum. And so this is like a homecoming week for her. She was at the World Economic Forum bragging about decarbonization. I've got opinions as an Albertan about decarbonization. Oh, she got a new dress. What a relief. It's conservative blue. She's wearing her Ukrainian ribbon. Of course she is. But anyways, let's listen to Chrystia Freeland with her brand new World Economic Forum dress. Tell us about the successes of decarbonization here in Canada.
This is a hugely transformative moment in the whole global economy. I think that right now we're living through a moment which is comparable only to the Industrial Revolution itself, in terms of the energy transition and the way we need to retool all of our manufacturing. That is huge. Canada's strategy, Borge, is to say, look at these two trends and let's see how we can use them to play to Canada's strengths. And our view is there's a lot that Canada can offer to the world in this moment. You know, we have the critical minerals and metals that you need to build a green economy. We have a lot of clean energy. 85% of our grid is already clean, and we are investing heavily in building more clean energy. We are a country that believes in manufacturing, has manufacturing know-how and capacity. And then you guys spoke about industrial policy. You know, the thing that is new about industrial policy is we are developing our economies, growing our economies at a time when we also need to accomplish the green transition. And I spoke yesterday to a very significant international business leader who is also a big investor in Canada. And he said to me, all the countries in the world need to be very careful that decarbonization does not mean deindustrialization. I thought that was an extremely smart comment, and Canada is absolutely determined that decarbonization for us will mean more jobs, more growth, more manufacturing, and we recognize government needs to play a role to make that happen.
What on earth is that woman talking about? You know what? Let's just take a minute to all just be glad that she was for once on stage in front of people, sitting like a lady with her legs crossed. And like, look, I'm not all that ladylike, but I know if I'm wearing a dress that I can't put my knees to my chest as she has in the past when she exposed our alumnus Ian Bexty to her underpants in an airport when she was changing her shoes. I've seen her actually put her hair in a scrunchie while she was on the stage in London, in the UK, with the UK foreign minister. And I was just absolutely mortified at how uncouth this woman is. I say as I'm sitting here in my lumber jacket and my sweatshirt, but like, know your audience, lady. So that's a win. That's a win for all of us, for Canadian dignity. She kept her legs crossed. So that's in the win category. Let's talk about the losses, though. She notes that, and you know, frankly, rightly so, that we're living through a moment that harkens back to the Industrial Revolution. She's right, just not in the way she thinks, because during the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of people who were in the peasant class who couldn't afford heat and food. And that's where we are in the pursuit of green energy. She says that green energy policies will inspire manufacturing. Ontarians, let me know in the comment section. Remember when Dalton McGuinty brought in a whole slate of green policies in Ontario, and then all of your manufacturing fled to greener pastures like Mexico? like the United States, like China, like your manufacturing sector went offshore because electricity was too expensive. I remember hearing from my cousins who were running their dryer in the middle of the night because that was when it was most affordable, because electricity just went whoop right through the roof. She's bragging about the number of green electricity projects that are contaminating the grid. I've got opinions about this as an Albertan. For those of you who are not from Alberta, let me tell you, Alberta has roughly 800 years of some of the cleanest burning coal on the face of the earth under our feet. In some places, you can pick it out of the ground. You can pick it out of the riverbed. It's like, you know, like on the side where the river's cut through. It's there. You can see it. It's the reason why, like at Wabamun, at Genesee, they strip mine. It's because it's relatively close to the surface. We don't have to tunnel mine like they do in the United States. We don't do that here. It's so abundant and so close to the surface. And yet, thanks to the NDP and their accelerated coal phase out in conjunction with the likes of Chrystia Freeland and the Liberal Party of Canada, now, 4 years later, in a prolonged cold snap that is not unseasonably cold, just longer than normal, we are getting Amber Alert style emergency alerts to our phone telling us to don't use electricity, use the microwave, not the stove, unplug the block heaters on our vehicles, which makes your vehicle just freeze up and it's impossible to run. That's what we're getting. And that's because our grid was contaminated with both green energy, but also green energy policies. Because at the same time as the NDP accelerated their coal phase out, they also brought in a carbon tax and policy uncertainty. So what's the solution? If you don't have coal, you need reliable baseload. Coal has always been our reliable baseload. So what do you shift to? Natural gas. Well, natural gas plant takes up to 10 years to get up and running. So when they accelerated this, the grid was not prepared. We're still not caught up. And the regulatory uncertainty of having an anti-oil and gas government, both in Ottawa, but also in Alberta at the time, meant that no companies wanted to build those plants because you didn't know if you were going to be allowed to. If they would suddenly decide, like how they decided they hated coal, that they would also all of a sudden hate natural gas too. And we're seeing some of that already. So we may have what you might describe as an abundance of green energy, but an abundance of green energy means it only works like 2% of the time, and the rest of the time, a place that is oil rich, gas rich, and coal rich is concerned now about catastrophic grid failures. So do not listen to a word this woman says about the green energy transition, unless you do want to go back to the dark times of the Industrial Revolution, where you are just living in a house with 100 other people, sleeping on the floor, and burning garbage to stay warm. That's where we're going to end up here.
Beginning of this debate, this government has moved forward with a careful mindset of both upholding Canadians' fundamental rights and protecting the most vulnerable.
Hello, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid, Editor-in-Chief at Rebel News Network. But I'm not here today as a journalist. Instead, I'm a concerned Canadian frightened for our most vulnerable. I'm reaching out to you about an issue that's at the very heart of our national conversation, about what defines us as a society and what we accept about life, choice, and dignity. In March 2024, Canada is set to flip a terrifying switch, something we cannot come back from. Our nation will expand existing liberal euthanasia protocols, medical assistance in dying, to include those suffering solely from mental illness. This is a chilling turn in our values and ethics. But this didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen in a bubble. The dark descent started years ago under the cloak of compassion. We're making a documentary We will delve into the real stories behind medical assistance in dying, exploring the depth of the issue beyond the headlines. We question the government's approach and their motives. We challenge shifting societal norms, and we bring voice to the unheard. But to tell this story, one that needs to be told and that no one else will tell, we need your help. Your support can bring this documentary to life by helping us cover the cost of production, research, and distribution. This isn't just about making a film. It's about sparking a national conversation, uncovering stories decision makers want left buried. It's about bringing light from the dark and hope to the desperate. I'll be making this documentary in partnership with our head of documentaries, Kian Simone. Our last project was the hit documentary Church Under Fire, Canada's War on Christianity, where we told the stories of pastors who stood up to government lockdowns during the pandemic overreaction. You trusted and supported us to get that story right. We'll get this one right too. And just like with that documentary project, we wanted to show you we appreciate your contributions by giving you perks back in return. On our website, madedocumentary.com, you can choose a perk and a contribution level that's right for you. Canada's future should be shaped by informed, compassionate, and ethical choices, where disabilities and depression are not death sentences. By embarking on this war on the vulnerable, Canada is on a collision course with the rock bottom of a very slippery slope, one progressives told us didn't exist. It's a crash landing other countries don't need to have. Our documentary can serve as a warning for other places considering these same decisions. Help us tell the stories these new eugenicists don't want told. A society can be judged by how it treats the least of its brothers. Go to madedocumentary.com and get involved today. Thank you.
We're going to make the responsible decisions as we move forward, as we always do.